So what we're going to do is very quickly show you how to draw up an example design. We'll simplify the inside, so we won't worry about the bits that we were trying to put inside. So I'm going to click on my new drawing, new design up here. And straight away, remember, the very first thing I always want to do is to save it. So make sure by clicking on location, make sure you're in the right group. So semester 2, there we are, is all your folders, so you can click on your own individual folder and obviously give it your name and a file name. Okay, so there we are. I'm just going to call mine MiniLight1 and click save. And then while you're working, every few minutes you just click your Command and S button. So let's start with a rectangle. So I'm going to press R. I'm going to click on this bottom surface here. So it's actually giving me a top view, and I'm going to draw out my rectangle. So R for rectangle, draw out the size 60. Don't worry about making that hidden detail. You can, it's pretty straightforward. But it's not something you need to worry too much about, but it's just X, select it and click X. I'm going to draw my shape using the spline tool, and I just need to click where I want a point of my shape. If it's a very complicated shape, then you'll need more clicks. If it's a less complicated shape, then you'll have fewer clicks. Okay, so it depends a little bit what my design is supposed to represent, of course. I don't know what this is, it's just a fairly random squiggle at the moment, and obviously join that up to make my shape. This wouldn't be a very good shape, obviously. It would be inclined to sort of stick in your pocket and sort of stick into you and all of that kind of thing. But anyway, there's my shape that I've created. You could, of course, just use a circle tool or a rectangle tool or even a line tool. So you could draw shapes just with a series of lines, L for line, and draw the shape that you're trying to achieve. And that might be even better for you. So again, depends what your design is, depends how things are supposed to look. Okay, anyway, I'll get rid of that because I only really want my one inside the box. The only reason for having the box is, of course, it keeps it to the maximum size. Once I've got my shape, and it must be coloured, so it could go, sometimes they go this blue colour, sometimes they go a kind of pinky peach colour, but that means we can extrude. So I'm going to extrude this by 3 because that's the thickness of my acrylic that we're using. So that gives me my first layer. Once you've done that, you're a large part of the way there, because I'm just going to save, so Command S and click OK so I don't lose my shape. Then I'm just going to drag around and select that, and I can press the two-finger click, so right click, and I can do a copy of that. I'll deselect it, okay, so it's no longer selected. And then I can do a right finger, two-finger right click and paste. And I'm going to move that up because it's supposed to sit above the first one, so it's going to have to move up by 3 mm. And I'll just click OK. And then I'm going to right click and paste another one. And this one is going to have to move up by 6 mm. And then I'm going to right click and paste the final one. And when I start dragging this up, this is going to have to go up by 9. So 3, 6 and 9. And then you'll have this sort of sandwich finish that we wanted. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So Command and S. And at that point, I'm going to put some colours. So I'll press A for appearance on my keyboard. And I'll scroll down and find the plastics. Some of them are glossy plastics, some of them are matte, so they don't have a shine, and I'm going to pull those onto there. Now, it may not have the exact colours that you wanted, so you might just have to choose the sort of the closest or next best thing. There we go, there's my colours on there. And then to finish off, I'm just going to add 2 further details, the LED and the button. but we'll try and keep those really simple. So to do the button, I'm going to click my circle tool if I'm having a circular shape button, and the button needs to be drawn on this top surface. Okay, so I'm going to click and I'm going to put my button here somewhere. I'm going to pull it out. A suitable size is something about 18 or somewhere between 15 and 18, but it's not too critical. I might go for 16 on there and click OK. And I'm going to extrude that button up, not by very much, but I'm just going to select that little bit, and I'll probably just pull it up by 1 or 2 millimeters, you know, just enough so it sticks out. Okay, but the really important thing is before you click OK on this, make sure you come across and you change this operation from join to new body. Okay, then you can click your OK. All right, that actually looks like it's sticking up a little bit too much, doesn't it? But I can change that in a moment. I'm going to then just take my make these edges a bit softer. So I'm going to press F and I'm going to select that surface there, or edge, that edge there, and that edge there. So you can see I've got 3 edges that are blue, and then I'm going to type in the size that I want to soften that by. It's not going to let me do that on there because I've gone and done a very unusual shape. I'm going to have to put in a smaller one on that side there, but that's okay. It still gives me that sort of slight softened edge and a little bit of reflection off of these things as well. The reason it wouldn't let me do a really big radius was because this is quite tight. It will either be here where this is tight or here. I'm not too sure, but anyway, something to do with my shape. Won't let me put a bigger radius on there, but that's okay. And then I'm just going to finish off with my LED. So to do that, I'll need to come across to my bodies here and click on what we call the caret. And I'm going to turn off the ones that I don't want to see. So I don't want to see the bottom layer or the top layer. I just want the middle layers there. So that would be the base, turn that off. That would be the top, turn that off. And of course I don't really want the button in the way either. So it's just my 2 middle layers. And then I'm going to click R for a rectangle and click on this top surface here. Okay, so anything I draw now, I'm drawing directly into this area. The size of this, well, ideally it wants to be 6 mm wide and about the same deep, so more or less a sort of a 6 mm square, but it's the width rather than the depth that's the most important. If it's a little bit deeper, you know, 6 by 10 is a bit much, 6 by 7, fine, that would work. And then I'm just going to use, once I click that in place, I'll press my E to extrude. I'm just going to push that down to get rid of it and make that cut. Now, in the earlier version, we talked about creating this slot and the hole here. We're going to just skip that on this, just for the sake of speed. And then the very last thing, onto that little surface there, I'm going to draw my LED. So if I press C for circle, and I click on one of those 2, doesn't really matter which, it's not going to make any difference, then that will spin around and face me. I'm going to put my mouse in the center, and I should be able to pull that out to 6 and click. And then once I've clicked that in place, if we have a look at it on our home view, okay, we can see that it's just a circle. And what we want to do is press our extrude button, select those 2 areas. Now you'll notice this one, you might just need to change the position slightly. If you look at that, can you see what's happening? It's only pulling out half of that circle, and I want it to, so I need to make sure that this piece is selected as well. Okay, if you like, it's putting half the circle on one piece and half the circle on the other. You can pull that out by an amount. Ideally, it's 6mm, but again, we don't need to be super precise. Now we've got something that looks a bit like an LED, but we just want to put a radius on there. So I'm going to click my F button and click that, and I'll put in half the diameter. So my dam, it was 6mm across, so if I put in half of that, it should give me a perfect circle. I'm just going to save, because I've forgotten to do that, so Command and S. And then if I just put my bodies back on, turn them all back on, there you go. If you want to change the colour of the LED, you can do. That's completely fine. So you could go down and find something like the red acrylic for that if you preferred. And there you go. If you want, you can change the colour of the button, of course. Let's make that. I haven't got a yellow on mine, so I think I'm going to go for a yellow button on the top. There you go. And then I can close that down. Just save it once you put your colours on, and then we'll do a Command Shift 4, and I can get a nice screen grab of that, and then I'll maybe just rotate it around a little bit, change the position, and I'll try and get a screen grab from that angle as well. Command Shift 4, and there you go. Upload those onto our slides, and we are done. So you can, yeah, play. You know, you can move it if you want to show what it's like from the other side. Of course, you can flip it over and do something that way as well. Command Shift 4, and that might be my third and final one, I think. Add those to my slides, and just make absolutely certain that you saved it, and there you are, done. Well done.